Welcome to Almost Functional Gaming. We aim to help all followers of Russ and the Allfather to improve on the tabletop. List building, tournament recaps, unit reviews, weekly council of the Fang, and other tips to help us all go from almost functional to fully functional. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also check out our merch store and Almost Functional score tracker on Amazon.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Almost Functional 40K. Here again with Aiden to do a special interview. We've got Kruker from Team Poland.
Welcome.
Hello,
yes,
everyone.
thank you for joining us.
Yeah, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm quite well.
That's
And
good
you
to
guys?
hear. Yeah,
Doing
we're
good.
doing well. We're really excited to have you on. I've been following your games for a long time now.
Really?
Yeah.
And just realized we got to step our beard game up if we want to be real Space Wolf players.
I know. We're blood claws.
Yeah.
Exactly. You have the local level of beard.
Yes.
In game. GW even posted an article on Space with Beard, so
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, you seem like you've got the long fang beard. How long have you been into wolves, and what got you into them?
well, I've been playing since the 5th edition codex. Not exactly sure what year it was, 2008-ish, something. That was my actually second army I've been playing. Oh, sorry, third one, actually. First was Turnies, then I played some Dark Eldar, and then I sold Dark Eldar and bought an army of Space Wolves. And actually, what brought me to the to Space Wolves was kind of funny because there were some tournaments I was playing back then with Turnies, and on the tournament I won some prizes from a third-party casting company because printing wasn't invented yet.
Yep.
And it was actually for Thunderwolves.
Because they didn't actually have Thunderwolf models when they released that book.
Yeah, but I think it was pre-release of the original Thunderwolves, even.
Yeah, let's say everybody had to make their own. Yeah, we had to get some D&D wolves and put Space Marines
Exactly.
on them.
And we had a third-party company in Poland that was making various bits, parts for 40K and different tabletop games, and they also had Thunderwolves. And I actually won a pack of 4 of them. And at that point, you could field 4 Wolf Lords, which cost like over 1,000 points or around-ish 1,000 points. It was like, and then there was an occasion a friend was selling like 800-ish points of Space Wolf. I'm like, oh, if I buy those, I'll have a full list.
Yeah.
And that's how it started, basically.
That is awesome. I'm happy to
many
hear
years.
that Thunderwolves have survived for so long because they're just the most badass part of 40K for me, honestly.
Exactly. And I'm really happy that they stayed in the Codex. There were some rumors that they would be going to Legends. And I'll be sad having all my 22 Thunderwolf Cavalry models and Logan on Stormstrider go away. Fortunately, we kept them, so all good.
Yeah, you can still run 18 if you want to. So yeah, they're definitely around. But cool. And so you took them to WTC this year, to the team event.
True.
And I believe you had
and
the best
singles as well.
Yes,
I was
and
playing
singles
with Masters as well.
Yeah. But I believe you had the best record with Wolves in the team event. You were what, 6-0-1?
I had third best, I think. I had the best technically if you go by win lose. But by battle points, I think Krisha and Oliver were slightly higher. But we were very close to each other either way. So.
Right. That makes sense. So it seems like their games were more blowouts, but they did lose more often than you did. You had a high number of points, but they were closer wins.
Yeah, exactly. I drew a single game and won 6.
Yeah, that is still fantastic record. So congrats on that. I know Poland did pretty well too, 5th place. But I also wanted to point out that while everyone was bandwagoning on Wolves this year, you had taken them to the WCC previously, and you were doing quite well with them. I think I saw you up high on the leaderboards for individual scores last year as well.
Last year, I was actually 4th total on the individual leaderboard if you count battle points.
Wow,
that's what I was talking about earlier. That for us in Poland, battle points are more important than wins or loses. Because the amount of points that you contribute to the team is the most important, not that you won like 11-9 or something. The amount of points you contributed is important.
Getting big wins with Wolves. That's what we like to hear.
Yeah, and that was last year. Last year was I had like 20s all around. I really had very good pairings last year.
Cool.
And if I remember correctly, last year Space Wolves were quite an underdog. No one was really looking at them, and people didn't really expect. There weren't a lot of Wolves taken at the WTC, and they didn't really expect Wolves to be seen. So it seems like it was really a counter to what was going on last year.
Yes, last year was very great for me for a Space Wolves player because, as you mentioned, they were not very considered for an army on WTC. I think only 2 of the top teams brought them. So people were not as prepared for them as they were this year. Because when preparing for WTC, you have quite a limited time to test against all lists. And even if you have the time, you still have to find a player that plays them at the level that you will be facing against at WTC. So let's say Team USA wants to test against my Space Wolves list, then they have to find someone who understands them and plays them at least like at 80% of what I can play. Because if they don't, they will be very surprised, which actually happened at the WTC against USA in the Worlds.
Were you running the Wolf GL last year or some other kind of version of Wolves?
Yes, it was all cavalry, so 3x6 cavalry, 3 battle leaders, and a Wolf Lord with Fury of the Storm. Nice. With 1 leader with Hunter's Instinct, so the turn 1 rapid English speed.
Yeah, when that first came on the scene, it took people a minute to figure out how to fight against it.
Yeah,
it was real well when it first started.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, what did you take this year? We've got the list pulled up.
Oh yeah, I'll pull your list up. Let's see. Yep. All right, so we got Beast Slayer. So we got a double Iron Priest. This obviously pre-Iron Priest nerf for everyone watching. Then we got Logan, Ragnar, Battle Leader with Wolf Touched, a Wolf Priest with Helm of the Beast Slayer, 10-man Bloodclaw, Intercessor, 2 Predators, a Repulsor, 1 Scout Squad, 2 3-man Thunderwolves, 6 Head Takers and 3 Head Takers. The second squad has Wolves with them. They're all double blade. And then a 10-man and a 5-man of Shield Wolfen.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm curious, first of all, Beast Slayer. I mean, we see a lot of Gladius and Stormlance nowadays. But why Beast Slayer?
Well, the task I was given, so to speak, by the team was to find a counter to Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights. Because, as you all know, the most recent patch before WTC was the big Knights point decreases and the Chaos Knight Codex releasing.
Yep.
It was very close to the list deadline, and still was legal for WTC. And we were expecting quite a few Imperial Knights. Yes. And we decided to take them as well, but we needed a way to counter them at the tournament. And that was the main reason for finally choosing Beast Slayer. I was considering, obviously, Stormlands as well, not as much Gladius.
Whoa.
I did consider it, but due to limited time, I had to focus on Stormlands and Beast Slayer, and be quick enough to decide on one of them to sort of understand it well enough to have a polished enough list. I didn't have the leisure I had last year that I was playing Wolf Jail for half a year and then I can take it to WTC. Here I was playing the pre-Codex Saga detachment.
Champions of Rus.
Champions of Rus, yes, exactly. I was planning to remember the name. And even like close before WTC, there was a debate between the captains whether the new codex for Space Wolves would be played at WTC at all. I'm not sure if you're aware of it.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, so because the points for Space Wolves were released in the monitoring document by WTC, but there was a note underneath the rules, underneath the points, that these are not for tournament use.
Oh.
So there was debate, should they allow a codex that has points, technically, but they are not for tournament use or not? And so because I wasn't sure if the codex would be legal or not, I was losing time to prepare for WC, to test lists, etc. Because there was a chance I would be playing something else. So I was playing some other ideas. I was playing Dark Angels earlier. I was trying Blood Angels as well, etc. So I was like looking for a list. But then it all became clear that the wolves be illegal. I had the codex, and then I started preparing for the WTC. And going back to the first question, why Beast Slayer? In the end, in my tests, I was quite confident that Beast Slayer is the detachment that brings enough punch to win into Death Guard and into Knights of all varieties. It was also good and much better into various versions of Necrons.
Yes.
Because Beast Slayer, from all the detachments that we mentioned, brings the highest damage,
Right.
maybe comparable to Gladius, depending on what you're facing against, but having lethals always is a bit more reliable.
Yeah, I believe, Beast Slayer definitely puts out more damage even than Gladius. Just Gladius gives you some more technical tools. So but if you're going just to beat Death Guard Knights, then as a main, then
and the meta seemed to be vehicle heavy, because we had, as we said, Knights that we were expecting to be dominant, where Beast Slayer handles very well. Even units that you don't expect to be effective into Knights with lethals and oaths suddenly deal enough damage to pile up. Even like intercessors, the regular intercessors with the bolt guns, you like shoot 20 shots and you fish for lethals with oaths, and you get AP1, and even melee of any unit basically fishing for lethals does damage that adds up. You're not stuck with units that are basically useless. Like if you have Gladius scouts or Gladius intercessors, they basically pose no threat at all to knights, while Beast Slayer ones have at least some chance of dealing additive damage over time.
Wow.
Very true.
Yeah.
And 8-shot predators help in the Knights too.
They really do.
Yeah, we're so jealous of anybody who got to run that at events, because we never got to run it at an actual event. It was all nerfed before it became legal over here.
Really? Right, because the first version of Wolves that was available in the app was the already nerfed ones.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm curious about this list. This is very different than some lists we've been taking a look at. Obviously, Gladius and Stormlance. We've seen a lot of Thundercat. We've also seen a lot of Terminators. But that is one thing that I'm like not seeing in your list. We also have not seen a lot of Head Takers. So I'm curious, why did you decide to go Head Takers?
Well, I was testing Terminator as well, but well, my results were not satisfactory with the Terminators. They are durable and not as expensive as some other Terminators, but their damage profile is slightly lackluster.
Mhm.
And it's all cool with Logan. You can deep check them turn one, but it's very reliant on infiltration and or starting the game. And because I'm using a repulsor, I'm choosing head takers instead of terminators to have more damage, less survivability. Made some sense, but also Beast Slayer with its flat 6 reactive move and the transport works really well because you can reactive those units after they fight into the transport. So as long as you charge something, kill it, and stay within 9 inches of the transport that moved up behind the unit, anything that moves within 9 allows you to move your heavy hitting unit and your fragile heavy hitting unit back into transport.
Very
Wow.
nice.
How
And-
often did you utilize that strategy? I saw the repulsor in here, and I saw the reactive move with the repulsor, and I was curious, like, if you leverage that in most games.
Not really in that many as I was expecting to, but there are quite a few. Because some abilities work on paper, but in the end you don't use them, but they still take effect. What I mean is, let's say you have a unit of block claws. They charge and kill their target. You move a repulsor 9 inches behind them, and the opponent has a choice to either move in and force you to go off the objective and put some pressure, or keep all of his units more than 9 inches away from the unit of blood claws and shoot them. And for example, that happened a few times. And despite me not being able to use the ability to move the blood claws into the transport, it had the effect of keeping my opponent 9 inches away of the blood claw unit. So it moved my opponent away from the objective, away from his secondaries. And so it's also a game despite not using it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Controlling space, just the threat of it.
Yeah, and I think also Terminators are better in a more board control list. This seems like he was going more damage, whereas the paired blade extra attacks with Beast Slayer seems like it would really shred stuff.
Yes, there are quite a few opponents fairly surprised by how much damage the head taker can do.
Yep.
And also the one reason for choosing this detachment was to have the battle leader join the Wolfen, because that's basically the only way to amp up their damage against knights. And well, against any targets, but they get sustained, which is very useful with their very limited amount of attacks because they only get 2 each.
Mm-hmm.
So with 20 attacks, lethals and sustained from the battle leader, they suddenly get a much better punch. And on average, they will be killing a knight in 1 turn. Well, they actually deal 35 damage into a knight, so a knight and a third of a knight in a single activation.
Wow.
Yep.
Of course, consider as long as the knight doesn't have extra defensive stuff like AOC, damage reduction, Feel Pains, etc. But even through Feel Pain, they should be killing a knight because that'll be 29 damage through Imperial Knight Feel Pain. So they should be killing an Atropos in a single activation.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. I was going to ask you, Beast Slayer, one of the big weaknesses that we see of it, there's no way to advance in charge or fall back and do anything, except for obviously the Blood Claws and Ragnar. I'm curious, how did that come into play in your games, and how did you play around that?
Yeah, so one part to sort of play around it was actually the repulsor, because that allows me to, one, get the 3 inch extra, which 3 inches is almost equivalent to advance in charge, because advance in charge on average is 3.5, and it's more stable. But it also, against some armies, allows me to stage more aggressively, especially armies that don't destroy repulsors so easily, or have to commit so many resources that I'm fine with him dying in such a case. Because, repulsor is still toughness 12, 16 wounds. Sure, I don't have anything to make him more durable. There's no AC, no nothing. I can reactivate D6. Sometimes it helps, but it's not much. There's nothing you can rely on.
Yeah.
But still, if someone goes for the kill for the repulsor, they have to at least somewhat overcommit, because if it survives, then it's a big problem. So this helped a little bit. And also, one thing that you might have noticed in my games and at WC is I can actually switch around the characters quite a lot in the list.
Yeah.
I've done at least 3 different configurations of characters. The basic one was having Ragnar in the Blood Claws, the battle leader in the Wolfen, and priest in the Head Takers. But if needed, I could, for example, into Eldar, I was switching the Ragnar into either the small or the big unit of Head Takers to get range.
Yep.
And then the battle leader, because he's not very useful in the Wolfen, could take the space of Ragnar to give extra 2 inches to the Blood Claws. Because the enhancement, aside from letting him join the Wolfen, gets him +2 to speed.
Yeah.
So he moves 9 instead of 7. So when disembarking from the repulsor, you actually get the 2 inch extra, because you will keep coherency, because coherency is 2 inches and he moves only 2 inches more. So suddenly you disembark from the repulsor 3 inches, you move 7 with the Blood Claws, but 9 with the battle leader, so that's 12. You still advance in charge because that's Blood Claws ability, and suddenly they get more reach and a little bit more damage. They lack the wound rerolls from Ragnar, obviously, but into elves, that's not that relevant if you have strength 4, and even if you really need to kill some elves, you can get possible wound with strength.
Yep. And now Ragnar's giving the other unit advance in charge, so now you have 2 of them in the elves, which is really nice.
You have 2 units that have decent reach, which is more important into elves than damage. So that was one option. And the other option for changing characters, which I used against France, was to take the battle leader from Wolfen and give it to the 6-man Head Takers. Because that's the highest damage I can create against non-vehicle units.
Yeah, 36 attacks sustained, rerolling 1s, that starts going
because, because the priest does nothing to improve damage.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of makes the +1 to wound free, but that's not actually increasing the highest damage they can deal. And giving them the battle leader gives them sustained. And then the expected value against Wraiths goes high enough that you can single turn Wraiths, which they actually managed to do in that game.
Yeah, because Beast Slayer has the strat for just +1 to wound, not even lance. So now you have 36 stacks, sustained, rerolling 1s, unless they're so they're rerolling everything.
They're
lethal. Yeah, lethal +1 to wound. Like, yeah, that could be crazy damage.
And devastating wounds, because turn
Oh,
one.
if it's only, yeah, if it's into their
Oh,
target.
yeah.
It's devastating wounds and precision as well.
Yes.
And the extra 5 attacks with dev wounds with the Thunderhammer, which is wounding on 2s.
Hmm.
So, on precision, which doesn't really matter much because you still have to rely on killing the unit in one go. So, you actually, even if you see the Technomancer, you don't want to use it.
Wow. Really? That's fascinating. I'm curious about the quarry target, because people have been saying, Olivier himself said that that rule is useless. And I almost agree with him,
It's not
because a
true.
lot of the times when you pick your quarry, your opponent can just run to the other side of the board, and kind of, it does force them to avoid that unit. But I'm curious, how did you use that mechanic?
Well, actually, Quarry was very useful in many games, and I completely disagree with Olivier that it's a useless ability, even though it was nerfed at WTC, because the WTC was played before the nerf of the Iron Priest, but also before the buff to the Head Takers, because their
Right.
ability didn't work within transports.
Right.
So if a unit starts within a transport, the ability never triggers, so you never get dev wounds against anything. And if you embark transports while having a quarry target, if the quarry dies, the ability also switches off completely, because you cannot choose a new target while in transport. And when you disembark, there's no quarry on the table.
Right.
That's how it worked. But many times, quarry helped a lot.
Yeah. Well,
There are
especially
some.
yeah, they were pairing you to knights and necro armies like that. They don't. It's not like elves where I pick the warp spiders and they go to the other side of the table. Like, you
Yeah,
pick the
exactly.
wraiths, he has to push them out. You
Yeah,
pick the
exactly. I
lancer and
mean,
knights, they have to push them out. So against certain armies, like, and then
yes,
now that they
there are
fixed
some
it,
armies that you can just choose the core target, and it's, well, like you said, Necrons with a single unit of Wraiths. You just choose the Wraiths with all head takers, and that's it. That's the only unit you will actually need those dev wounds against.
yeah, and if he
Not
decides
at
to run them,
WTC, but at some other tournaments, it worked very well against Accursed Cultists. Because then you have precision on the whole unit, and you can single out the demagogue if you are able to get line of sight to him, and dev wounds help a little bit as well. And also, you can simply choose a unit that you know will have to push forwards, or just starts in the front, like you're playing Death Guard, and there's the unit of Poxwalkers in the middle of the table. You can just choose them. And then when they die, you choose a new target anyway. So the opponent cannot choose to move a unit out of the quarry, out of the way of the unit that has quarry against them, because they're not quarry yet. And then you kill those Poxwalkers or any unit and that you know will be dying, and then choose a new quarry. So also sometimes worked in that way. So I think it's quite useful of an ability. Precision, I think, never came into play, but the dev wounds help in quite a few cases.
Right. Well, going back to my question a minute ago about how you managed to work around no advance in charge, no fallback in charge, it sounds like you had ways to manipulate movement through joining different characters, advance in charge, +2 move, getting out of transport. But I also noticed in a couple of your games, you had an interesting use of Logan's ability. I noticed in your game against Nick, you really aggressively turn one strategic Thunderwolves into a corner of the board to draw a lot of attention to that, just to get them up the board, to put pressure on your opponent. I'm curious how you use Logan's ability in your games. Did you always bring in Thunderwolves? Did you bring in Ragnar turn one? I mean, just maybe solo Logan by himself?
It depends. There were some games, like you said, that in many games, I think the Thunderwolf Cavalry was the unit that used that ability most of the time, especially on Search and Destroy, And sometimes on Crucible, you can put them in a position which they wouldn't normally reach turn 1, or would require them to be placed in a dangerous position. And or I use it for sometimes if I was going second, I used it on Logan himself to provide the Vectora. You can use it this way and keep him within 9 of the table edge to be able to pick him up again, and then deep strike in future turns, which I think I've done only once at WTC, but it was an option. So it's, well, Logan's ability is more a threat than is actually used that much on the table, I think. Especially in my list where I don't really bring any big threat with his ability. I can sometimes put a Thunderbolt Cavalry if, as you said, in a game against Nick in an advantageous position where they wouldn't be able to reach normally, to put some extra pressure, or sometimes do a mission, a secondary that would normally be difficult to complete, or would require a resource that I don't want to spend. It was quite useful, but I didn't have the biggest or most obvious use to play with Terminators. But I still think it's very risky to use it that way, because if you decide, especially if you decide to put 10-man Terminators in reserves with Arjak or with Logan himself, and then because you lose the infiltration and or first turn, be forced to deep track them in your deployment zone, you would lose an enormous amount of tempo.
Yeah, that makes sense. We did talk to Olivier with the 10-man Terminators and Arjak, and he said he started them on board every game except for one. So, yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, I would, if I had a 10-man, I think I would do the same, unless I was playing a very specific matchup that I know is unable to deny me an advantageous deep strike of them. Let's say 5 Big Knights probably is a list. I could play them in deep strike.
Right.
Possibly, because they don't have enough tough units. Well, they don't have any tough units to push you off the board. And they also can't really allow you to deep track into their deployment zone. So they have to screen.
Right.
So I think that would be one of the lists. I would consider them on in deep strike. But
right.
Also, in Beast Slayer is a bit different, because in Beast Slayer I have no access to Advance in Charge, so Livia did, or Stormland has. So my Terminators are much slower, which is also an argument against them, because also they are a 2-up save unit that is supposed to be durable, and out of Beast Slayer, Stormlands, and Gladius, I'm the only one with no AOC.
Wow. That is fascinating.
So you cannot abuse the 2-up save AOC to survive enough, and without AOC, they are not durable as you would want them to be. So that was also the reason why I decided against taking them in display.
Yeah, because I've been running the 10-man in Gladius, and I deep strike them almost every game, and it's been working real well for me. But that's because I normally just deep strike them turn 1 to stage for another turn.
Yes, I would. If I was going first, I would always deep strike them in an aggressive position, especially because they aren't very tall. They can hide behind all WC ruins, so there's almost like always a position they can deep track them like in the middle of the board and have them relatively safe.
Yeah, and I always bring a scout unit that I use to try to hold off the spot where I want them to come, so they can't take it away with infiltration.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, but in Beast Slayer, I probably wouldn't. You're right. The no advance in charge definitely changes the math on that.
He really does. I can see why you went away from Terminators, specifically in Beast Layer, because they do have mobility issues. You need to deep strike them. They don't advance in charge. If your opponent's good and they're in deep strike, they can really be aggressive and push them back. But also curious about, you mentioned one other strat that you use, the go back into reserve. Beast Layer strats, the detachment rule is amazing. The enhancements are great. The strats are okay. I'm curious, did you use a bunch of other strats? Like +1 move is amazing. The reactor move
I
is
think
amazing.
out of those three
Yeah.
detachments, the Beast Slayer has the best stratagems.
Whoa, really?
Well, that may be just my biased opinion, but you have six stratagems.
Yeah.
Every single one of them is very useful.
Whoa.
Every single one of them. Which is
Tell me, what did you use? Yeah.
It's already very good because there are very few detachments that you have 6 stratagems, all of which are useful.
Right.
There's always like 1 or 2 which are very situational, you barely get to use them. There might be one in Beast Slayer, the slowdown one, that kind of is that way, but it's still useful.
Right.
So going through the strats, you have +1 to wound, which is obviously
Amazing.
one of the most used and best strats in the detachment, because it's +1 to wound always. You don't have to charge. You can use it on any type of unit, not only mounted like Stormlands.
Right.
So you can use it on head takers, on terminators, on blood claws, etc. Then you have move through walls and units of cavalry, which in especially Stormlands, against some lists that move block a lot, really struggles to play around it, because your opponent just puts a 5-man trash units on 10 cultists in front of your Thunder Wolves. You no longer have surge move, so you can be, let's say, half of your unit gets shot to death, and the other half is stuck because there are cultists in the way. Here, you can move through units. You can also charge through units with it. So it's more difficult for your opponent to screen against the Thunder Cavalry. Obviously, in this list, I only had 2 units and 2 small ones, so they don't pose not much of a threat. But it was useful in quite a few scenarios where I was able to reach a point of the table which I wouldn't normally be able to by moving through low walls, or being able to charge through a chaff unit into a unit I actually wanted to get, as I didn't have enough range to deal with them on that flank or something. So it is quite useful, and it's something that the other 2 detachments don't have access to.
Right.
Then you have the slowdown one. So that's -2 to move and charge against a character vehicle monster unit.
Did you end up using that?
I used it once, I think. So not much. That's true. This one, I was actually very mad at myself that I forgot to use it in my game against Alban at singles, where he rapid ingressed a unit of Deathcore Terminators, and I had a Predator shooting at the Demon Prince. I could have shot the Stormbolter at the Terminators, had them slow down, and then protect the Predator from being charged, which I realized after the game, sadly. But that was a very good opportunity to use it very effectively.
Yep.
Yeah, because they only move, what, like 4 or 5 inches, those Terminators?
Yeah.
And they move 5, so they're going down to 3.
Yeah.
And they charge with -2. So effectively, they move within 6 of the Predator. Then the Predator can D6 move away with reactive.
Yep.
And they have -2, so they need an 8 minus D6 of my reactive.
Yeah,
so
so 9, best case scenario 9.
Exactly.
And possibly unchargeable if you roll high enough.
So that was a very good opportunity to use it. Well, sadly, I wasted it because I was short on time. I was just completely slipped my mind to use it. That was my mistake. Singles was actually a warm up for teams anyway, but yeah, that was a single very good use for that strat, but still quite a decent strat, giving -2 to move and charge for like Graves, Accursed Cultists, a Lancer, or like even like a big shooty knight that your opponent positions in a way that this knight, if he moves 10, reaches this ruin exactly and shoots through this ruin. You just shoot him with a Stormbolt and suddenly he cannot do it. He just moves
Right.
8 and the pre-measured position where he could move is no longer possible. So it is situational, but still a useful strat.
Yeah, it's good to have in the toolbox.
Yeah, and then you have another two very strong stratagems, especially when used together, which is reactive move and surge move.
Surge move.
That's the same thing Wolf Jail abused very effectively on cavalry. It was a combination of a strat and ability of the battle leader, but being able to reactive move a unit and also surge the unit afterwards is very strong in this game. Because one way to avoid surge moves is simply move a unit in the way of the unit that will be surge moving, and have it surge move into that unit and charge it. But if you have reactive move, you can then move your unit around to surge in the unit that you want it to be surging into.
Right.
And that was used quite a few times with Wolfen or Bloodclaws. More often Wolfen because they're a bit more durable, but still both units can use it very effectively. And it's the same. It's the same kind of deal I talked earlier. The ability that you can use such stratagem is a game in itself because your opponent will be forced to play around it.
Yep.
And he will put himself in a disadvantageous position because of it, because he'll either respect totally the 9-inch range of reactive to avoid reactive and surge move together. Because if he moves within 8 inches of you, you can reactive move towards him, and the Beast Slayer reactive is flat 6 on almost every unit because it's reactive flat 6 on Space Wolves, infantry and cavalry, Space Wolf infantry, and Thunder Wolf cavalry, I believe.
Yep.
Might be misremembering, but I think that's how it's worded.
That's exactly worded. Yep. Space
Yeah.
Wolf
So your opponent still has to, if he intends to shoot you with 2 or 3 units, or shoot with a unit and then charge with another one, he doesn't have really a way to position that effectively. Because if he wants to charge, he has to, let's say, move within 5.
Wow.
To have a reliable charge. And then you reactive move and move within an inch of him. So, and now he no longer is able to shoot you, because if he chooses to shoot with the other unit that was meant to kill your unit, you will surge move and fight first against his unit, because his unit will no longer be charging, and because none of the units are charging, you go first and melee. So he has to forego the shooting altogether and just charge, which might not be enough. So then to prevent that, he either has to fully commit to shooting and shoot you to death, but then still not move within 9 with any of his units, or commit enough units in melee to just kill you in melee, which some combined arms lists are not always able to do. So it's exactly the same thing that, as I mentioned, the All-Storm has abused.
Yep.
Reactive with surge move.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw those stratagems, I'm like, this is the direction for me. I played that exact combination of abilities to great success and the previous WTC. I'm like, why not use it again?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool.
And the last one is the one we mentioned earlier, the go back to reserves, which is obviously a very good strat. It is slightly limited just to Space Wolf units. You cannot go back to reserves any real shooting, which
Right.
is kind of limiting, but still being able to go back to reserves with a unit that cleared the flank that is no longer needed there, and being able to move it to the other flank is quite useful. And also the option to pick up Logan can also be very helpful. So
Yeah.
I don't see really, like, the only strat that's very situational is the slowdown one. And I think it's still a very good one because it's completely unrestricted. It's just make a ranged attack and slow down the target.
Yeah.
So compared to like other slowdown strats, like Chaos Knights have a strat that forces a battle shock, and if you fail a battle shock, you will be slowed down. But if you make the battle shock test, then nothing happens. And here you just have to hit with a range weapon, any range weapon.
Cool. All right. Well, we had a question from chat. DJ wanted to know, would you consider units like Hell Blasters or Plasma Scepters for damage output in Beast Slayer?
Not necessarily those two. So Beast Slayer doesn't offer those two units, I think, enough to warrant using them in Beast Slayer, especially Plasma Interceptors, because they are Twin Link already.
Right.
So the lethal hits, if you're already Twin Linked, is not that impactful. Even against targets that have more toughness, you'll still be wounding on fights with a full reroll, which more than half shots will still be wounding.
Yeah.
So the lethals are, in that case, worse than sustained hits would be.
Right.
And Inceptors are not Space Wolves, so you cannot pick them up. If the strat to pick up units worked on Inceptors, I would definitely consider them, because being able to pick up a unit that deep strike within 6 is obviously very useful. But unfortunately, they are not Space Wolves. So I'm not very sure about those units. If they were slightly cheaper, maybe I would consider using some of them, because especially Inceptors, even played from the board, are quite mobile. They have move 10, assault, fly, etc. So they're quite okay. But the Beast Slayer doesn't offer them that much, as other detachments that utilize Inceptors very well, like Vanguard or Gladius, for example.
Yeah.
And they're much more utilized in the detachments that don't use the supplement chapters, so get the +1 to wound oath, and that's where the Inceptors excel the most.
Yeah, absolutely. We got this follow-up question, which I was curious about, from DJ. What shooting units, now that the Iron Priest nerf is legal and is in consideration, what shooting units are you looking at? Are you going less shooting, more melee? Are you still taking some amount of shooting? And what are your thoughts?
So I have two approaches I am considering. One is to switch more into Lancers, which is kind of the obvious pick, being the tank that has a single very strong weapon with only 2 shots, which the Iron Priest still buffs quite well.
Right.
That's option one. And then just take like 2 Lancers and a Ballistus Dreadnought. Ballistus Dreadnought being also quite well suited for working with the Iron Priest, because the last cannon is the strongest weapon he has, and he is quite self-sustainable with the rerolls, doesn't require oaths to shoot well, and lethals help him a little bit as well, because when overwatching, Ballistus Dreadnought can fish has full rerolls, so every of his attacks in Overwatch will be a lethal hit.
Yeah.
So there's some argument to use Ballistic Dreadnoughts, Lancers, and one more which I didn't manage to test so far, because surprisingly I don't own a single Gladiator. So there's a package with 3 of them waiting for me to pick up next week. So
There you go.
and that will be Gladiators Valiants.
It's just
Yeah,
number of
and I'm
mods.
obviously talking still about Beast Slayer exclusively.
Yes.
Because, well, Valiant is the one that has 2 multi-meltas, the sponsons, and the Last Talon at third. And the multi-meltas will benefit quite well from the lethal hits. So that might be an option to potentially play them, but then play them without the Iron Priest. Because the Iron Priest doesn't benefit them that much, so we can just skip the Iron Priest in that case, or combine the two, play like a Ballista Dreadnought and Lancer together with a single Iron Priest, and then have the Valiant on his own, maybe from Rapid Ingress or Strat Reserves. Just try to Rapid Ingress and then utilize the Melter range.
Yep.
There is an option here.
Yeah, I took the Iron Priest and Lancer to Nova, and I like the 3-shot Lancer. It's fun.
Quite fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's more reliable. Well, the basic Lancer is unreliable as unreliable can be.
Yeah.
I've never managed to kill a vehicle with a single Lancer. That never happened.
Not with the 2-shot one. No, I've done it with the 3-shot one, but never with the 2-shot.
The 3-shot I can imagine killing a Rhino or a Predator, but anything that has like a 5-up 4-up invul is basically impossible to kill.
Yeah.
And sadly, into Knights, if you do the math of the Lancer, it deals very limited amount of damage. It's around 8, 9. Yeah. Which is not satisfactory. So the other idea is just to go, as you said, maybe not full melee, but much more melee heavy. Similar like I played the Champions of Rust pre-Codex, so to speak, and I was playing like single ballistas and full melee.
Wow.
Like single ballistas just to force the opponent to not deploy on the line and respect a little bit of your shooting, and then go full melee. Because the melee is still as deadly as it is pre-nerf.
Yeah.
You still have lethals, so you don't need the vehicles to deal with your opponent's high toughness targets. For example, Stormlands, I think, now will have quite an issue with that.
Yep.
Because Stormlands has, well, the whole codex has strength 5 melee is the best we can get, aside from some characters.
And that's what I found with hundreds of games of Stormlands, especially after the post Iron Priest nerf, that there is a damage problem into tougher stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
And that's where I think Beast Slayer is kind of an answer to that problem of the codex,
right?
Because there's not a problem with the amount of attacks, the AP, the damage. All of those are very good. The problem is with strength.
Right.
And, well, lethal hits are what circumvents that the most out of the detachments, strats, abilities that you can put onto those units. Because pre-nerf, you could use, like Olivia did, a lot of vehicles with Iron Priests, and you suddenly have double annihilators, and you blast every hard target to death, and and you're good. But suddenly, if the Lancers aren't point effective enough to deal reliably with those targets, and they will also be facing some range issues, firing line issues, because the gladiators are much more bulky than the predators, and they're much higher, so they don't hide behind small ruins.
Right.
They stick out from them, and because they're bigger, it'll be more difficult to get good angles on some tables.
Yeah.
So I think a melee build with Beast Slayer might be the way to go. I still haven't had much games with that because I took a little break from Spaces after the WC, and now going back to testing ideas around.
Yeah.
So that's one idea. Second one is to go Stormlands, but Stormlands, I think, only for team tournaments. Otherwise, having a list that only has strength 5 attacks, if you run into knights, run into anything that's T10 up and requires enough damage to win, Stormlands will struggle. No matter how fast you can go, even if you move 21 inches, and all your units just bounce away from your opponent and do negligible damage, will not save the game.
Yeah, that's what we're finding is that we have a lot of good durability, speed, okay damage, but yeah, you do need some way to swing up. Beast Slayer just has it just built in, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but as we said, in team tournaments, you can take more specialized lists like Stormlands, and then just avoid the matchups that you cannot play into, and steer yourself into the list that you can play against. But well, that obviously has to be considered when building the team composition for your team, because you cannot take 5 lists like those, because you cannot babysit all lists. Babysit 1-2 players sometimes, but not all of them. So if taken into account when building a composition for a team tournament, Stormlands still be very good. Gladius, I think, still be good and more all-roundish as well. And Beast Slayer might be, but this is just my speculations and thoughts after LBC, might be the best go-to list for singles.
Whoa, that was my next question. Beast Slayer, best attachment for singles.
I think so. But Gladius should be very close to it as well, because Gladius also can circumvent the damage issues if you build the list correctly. Considering that you have to circumvent those issues. So because you get the AP and Lance strat, which is in the end much stronger if Lance triggers, obviously, than the Beast Slayer one. Because you get Proton Wound and AP, so it's, for example, very good in the Blood Claws. So you can maybe take 2 20-man Blood Claws. Maybe, although one without Ragnar will still be slightly underwhelming.
Yeah. Yep.
That is something to consider, and maybe rely more heavily on vehicles, Space Marine vehicles in Gladius still, even after the nerf.
That's the one. I'm taking a Gladius list to a tournament tomorrow, and I do find myself building a lot of vehicles in, because I find that's a good source of high damage. Gladius buffs everything. It feels like a balanced list. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, we're coming up on an hour. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on, or any other questions you had, Aiden? Or anything else we got from the chat?
No, I think I got everything I needed. I'm going to try Beast Slayer.
That's the thing. After next month, I'm going to do Beast Slayer. I got a GT in like 2 weeks, so I'm not going to start retesting lists right now. But after that GT, I want to go to an all melee build and see how that works.
Yeah, I mean, all melee Beast Slayer would be my first pick now after WTC.
Yeah.
Well, as all melee, I still would have Ableist's Dreadnought.
Pinch of shooting.
Yeah, a little bit of shooting just to prevent your opponent, like, okay, so we have no shooting in the range. Okay, I'll deploy on the line.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, we don't want that happening. We need a little bit of shooting at least.
Yeah, and I think you are right in that Beast Slayer has some mobility problems for some units, and I like your use of transports. I think having transports is really key in Beast Slayer.
Yes.
Add
The list
names.
actually I have built now because Repulsor lost quite a little usefulness because of the Iron Priest nerf. That was also the very good thing about the Repulsor. It benefited quite a lot from rapid fire. Even the indirect hunter killer missile, which I got to finally shoot something relevant.
I saw that in your game with Nick. You took out the
Yes,
last
exactly.
couple of wounds of a wave
Yeah.
serpent.
Nice.
Yeah, two last remaining ones with the indirect missile. So now going back to the list, I moved to double impulsors.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ugh.
So my list was not sure because I had a few versions of it. Was 2 impulsors, 6, 6, and 3 head takers. I had an idea to run a 6-man with shields and a 6-man with double swords. And had a priest and had a battle leader. I'll still run Wolfen because they're still for 280 points quite good with the Wolf Touch.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more cavalry. It was either 6-3 or 3 units of 3 because they are cheaper when they're fielded in the 3-man units.
Yep.
And yeah, that was the gist of the list. Obviously, the obvious part being Ragnar with Blood Claws. But in that case, it was a Ragnar with 20 Blood Claws.
Oh, 20 Blood Claws in Beast Lair does sound kind of scary because they have.
Yeah, it's because that's the unit that benefits most from reactive and surge.
Mm-hmm.
True.
As I've mentioned earlier, and because I don't have a transport, I'm no longer forced to have a smaller unit because Ragnar was the prime unit to go into Repulsor, and now by foregoing the Repulsor in exchange for impulsors, I was thinking running Ragnar with a 20-man and see how that goes.
80
Scary.
attacks with lethal and rerolling wounds. That
+1 to wound, reroll wounds. Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Always good.
One lethal, yeah. So it's like if you're in Beast Slayer,
And
so yeah,
80
that could
attacks.
really shred. Yeah.
It's a lot of attacks.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Kruker, we are so happy to have you on. Thank you for
Absolutely.
coming on. This was
Thank
wonderful.
you for coming. Yeah. I always
Yeah,
love
well,
to
thanks for the invite. It was a pleasure to share my thoughts and hopefully help some people get more insight into how I played and viewed Space Wolf at the tournament, because obviously me and all the other Space Wolf players WC had their own thoughts, especially we had to adapt very quickly after the codex released.
Yes.
So in such a case that the meta of a codex is very fresh, many people will have very different views on what to think.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Aiden. Once again, thank you as always. Thank you everybody for watching. Aiden will be back Tuesday with me for our normal live Tuesday show. But thank you guys, and we will catch you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you for watching Almost Functional Gaming. We appreciate the support of all followers of Russ and the Allfather. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also, check out our merch store and Almost Functional Score Tracker on Amazon. Everything helps support the growth of this channel, and we appreciate it.